and welcome back to this channel. Welcome to episode 2 of Solved Saturdays, and today we're going to be doing a case that is very near and dear to my heart. This case is honestly like why I decided to do this channel in the first place. I always told myself, like, when I get around to making a true crime YouTube channel, this case and the two stories that this case is about is going to be one of the first videos that I put up there. So you could honestly say that this video was years in the making, so I'm so happy that I finally get to be honouring this story the way I've always wanted to honour it. So yeah, I'm very happy to be telling these stories now. So this case is going to be done in 2 parts today, 2 separate videos, and that's because we've got like 2 different points of view, 2 different backstories, so I wanted to kind of give them both the spotlight that they deserved. So this is part 1, and that's going to obviously come up on the normal Saturday, and then part 2 is going to be released tomorrow on the Sunday. And also, just before we get in, I just wanted to give a bit of a disclaimer about this story. I just wanted to say, like, in case you're kind of dealing with anything mentally or emotionally at the moment, to just maybe put off watching this video until later, because this story unfortunately is very sad, and I just wanted to kind of give just a little bit of a forewarning in case you're dealing with anything like that. Put this story on hold for now and then come back to it when you are feeling a bit better. I want to take you back first of all to 2016, where this story takes place, and to kind of understand why this story means so much to me, I wanted to start this off by telling you that back in 2016 I was around 21 to 22 years of age, and I decided that I wanted to go traveling, and more importantly to that, I decided I actually wanted to go backpacking. And I thought, what better country to go backpacking for my first ever backpacking gig to kick off all of my traveling adventures would be to simply chuck next door to New Zealand and do it that way. So I planned to do 3 months. I was going to cover the North Island and the South Island and everything else in between, and yeah, I was really gearing up to do that. I was saving all my money, I was telling my friends this is what I want to do, I was doing all my research, and I was really excited to take this next step in my life. I was talking about it a lot to my mum and everything like that. So remember that for later. Now that I've told you a little bit about that, let's talk about who we really came here for today, and that is the story of Mia Ayliffe-Chung. Mia, nicknamed Mimi, was a 21-year-old young woman from Wirksworth in Derbyshire in England. She was born to a mum called Rosie and 3 sisters called Tanya, Nicola and Natasha, and she was born on the 7th of October 1995. Mia was described as being a beautiful girl with a beautiful soul. She was very bubbly, she was very caring, she had an absolutely just infectious smile and a gorgeous laugh, and she got along with everyone she met, and she had tons of friends, and she was very well loved by everybody. She had a lot of dreams and aspirations for her future. She was very ambitious, and this always manifested itself in really amazing ways. Growing up a majority of her life in Wirksworth with her family, when Mia graduated high school, she decided that she wanted to extend herself academically, and she wanted to go to college. So the first college she ever went to was a place called Chesterfield College, and there she studied communication, culture and psychology. After she graduated from that degree, she then decided she wanted to go on and do another one. So she went to another college, and this one I believe was called Buxton College, and there she decided to study childcare, and she graduated from that in 2015. So she was at a time in her life where kind of everything was perfect to go on for her next adventure, to kind of go on to her next challenge. And how she wanted to do this was she wanted to go traveling. She wanted to go traveling, she wanted to go exploring, and Mia didn't want to go for like a 2-week holiday to Greece or anything like that. She wanted to kind of up in the game a little bit, as we all do when we're in our early 20s, I swear. And kind of how you can organically do this in your early 20s is to go backpacking, and that is exactly what Mia did. So she left her mum, her home and her siblings, slinging her backpack over her shoulder, and she took off on a 3-month adventure, crossing such countries as Morocco, Thailand and Turkey. Along the way, she also took some additional stops in some other parts of Asia too, like Vietnam and Indonesia. However, this trip though wouldn't just end with her simply returning back to England. Mia decided that she had actually wanted to take a bit of an extended gap year and go to Australia. She wanted to get the working holiday visa and live and then work in Australia for up to 1 year. So after she had finished her 3-month-long travels through a majority of Asia, she decided that she was then going to go on to Australia. After arriving in Australia, after finishing her travels in Bali, Mia decided that she was going to get a job, she was going to save some money, and that she was going to settle down somewhere. And she had just come off a huge trip where she had so many great and wonderful experiences, and she had met so many lovely people. She had so many new friends that she'd met on the road, and she wanted to kind of bring all of that energy through to Australia with her. She wanted to just put full throttle on having the best time of her life, meeting new people, having amazing experience, and that's exactly what she did. So Mia moved to the Gold Coast, and the Gold Coast is on the east coast of Queensland. It's kind of down a little bit more, kind of more towards the border of New South Wales, if you will. And she decided to move to Surfers Paradise in the Gold Coast, which is amazing. My dad lives in Burleigh Heads, not far from Surfers Paradise. It's gorgeous. Gold Coast is beautiful. Mia absolutely loved everything about the Gold Coast. She loved the nightlife, she loved all the cute little cafes and everything, and she loved that kind of beach themed. It's very kind of tropical, if you will, and Mia just had a ball with it. She absolutely loved living on the Gold Coast. And a few months after settling in, she met a nice Australian boy and she started a new relationship with him. She also got another job as well. She got a job as a bartender at the Bedroom Bar. Like, if you're from Goldie, you'll know all about the Bedroom. It's really well known. It's really fun in there too. And there she just continued on making heaps of friends and having a really fun time. Also adopted a cute little kitty and named him Leo, and absolutely adored him. So with all the new friends that Mia had met, she was going on lots of adventures around Queensland and around the Gold Coast area. She was taking loads of pictures and she was uploading them to Facebook, and this was kind of how she kind of like let her parents, friends and everything know kind of like what she was up to in Australia. She was using like Facebook and Instagram a lot to just kind of, you know, let everyone know what she was doing and what she was up to, and that she was having a lot of fun. So a few months had gone by and Mia was really enjoying her time on the Gold Coast, and she soon realised, like, hey, you know, the year that I have to stay here, it's going to be over pretty soon. And she had realised that, you know, she wasn't really done with living on the Gold Coast or living in Australia, and that she really wanted to extend her visa. And she had the option to do that. You have to apply for it, but there is the option to extend your visa from a 1-year visa to a 2-year visa. And so she thought, well, that's a no-brainer. I'll just go ahead and apply for that. And so she did. She even wanted to see if she could even go for sponsorship after the 2-year visa was up. But sponsorship is basically like if you work somewhere, they can sponsor you to stay on longer than the 2-year visa. Tons of my British friends have done it. It's a pretty good opportunity if your place of employment allows you to do it. You can kind of stay here for as long as you like, if you will. So she applied for the visa extension and she got it, but it meant that she had to go and do 3 months of agricultural work. So how the Australian working holiday visa works, for those of you that don't know, that if you want to extend your visa on for 2 years, you have to go for 3 months in like a rural property, and you have to be like a farmhand. You have to work on the farm and you have to help with like fruit picking is typically what you're doing. Avocado picking, banana picking, sugarcane, things like that. And you have to do it for like just shy of 90 days, so something like 88 days. And it's really hard work. I've got mates that have done it. You know, you're out in the sun for 8 to 14 hours each day. It's really hot and it's really hard work. It's really grueling. So Mia applied for a few places to be a farmhand, and eventually she got one. She got one in a really small country town in North Queensland, like far North Queensland actually, nearly all the way up at the top. And it was in a small country town called Homehill. And this particular farm that she had applied to work at specialised in sugarcane. Now, Mia wasn't exactly ecstatic at doing this. I don't think anybody would be, but you know, she had a really positive attitude towards the whole thing. She was just going to make the most of it as best she could, and she wasn't, you know, she wasn't gonna face it with negativity or anything like that. She was just gonna make the most of it. So it was only gonna be 3 months anyway, so she figured, you know what, 3 months, it'll be fine. I'll be back on the Gold Coast with my friends and it'll all be okay again. So Mia left the Gold Coast and headed for Homehill, but she didn't go alone though. She went with a friend of hers, a male friend from the UK as well, so she had someone to go with, so she didn't feel so alone. And they both arrived to Homehill on the 16th of August 2016. So when they both arrived, they both had to go to the hostel that they would be living at for the entirety of doing their farm work. So sometimes in these situations you can live on the farm sometimes, but if you can't live on the farm where you're working at, then you can go and like stay in town more at like a backpackers or a hotel even. But typically it's a backpackers because it's very affordable. And that's exactly what Mia and her male friend went and did. They went to the lodging. It was a place called Shelley's Backpackers, and they both checked in and they were both put into separate dorms. So I'm not sure who her male friend was put in with, but Mia was put into a room with one other person. And yeah, this was where she would be sleeping for the next 88 days. So just like that, Mia and her friend were out working on the farm the next day, doing the first of the 88 days of their agricultural work. And it was in this time that Mia was posting on Facebook a lot. She was telling everybody what it was like to work on the farm. She was posting about being covered in dirt head to toe and seeing all sorts of Australian nasties like snakes and spiders. It was just clear in these Facebook posts. She was trying to have fun. She was trying to make the most of it, and she had a really good positive attitude towards the farm work. And back at the hostel, there was a lot of British people at this hostel. So, you know, her and her friend kind of felt right at home. There was people from all over the UK, I believe. So that's like Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, England, the whole lot. So yeah, they kind of fit in really well and they made friends pretty well. The people at the hostel were very welcoming. They were very nice. And I think one of the things Mia liked the most was, you know, being able to sit down after a long day and have a nice drink and just chat with everyone. One of these such people that she met on that day was a lovely man called Thomas Jackson, who was a 30-year-old freelance journalist who was also from the UK. But I'm going to tell you more about him in part 2 of this series that will come out tomorrow. So her and her friend were settling in relatively well. They were finding everything relatively easy, and everyone in the hostel was really kind and nice towards them. That was everybody except one particular person. So also sharing Mia's dorm room, as I mentioned before, she was put into a room with one other person. That other person was a 29-year-old French national called Ayliffe-Chung. I believe that he was there just like everybody else, trying to get his agricultural work in, but I'm not actually 100% certain. Very quickly, other people kind of noticed so like I said, some red flags about him. One person in particular that kind of noticed that something was very strange about this particular man was actually Mia's friend from the UK who she had arrived with. He kind of noticed that Ayliffe had developed a bit of an infatuation with her. He didn't exactly go and tell Mia about this, but he was kind of very vigilant of this development, and I think he was telling other people around the hostel too that he had noticed this. So even though I don't really want to talk about this person whatsoever, just a little bit of background on this person was that Ayliffe was a professional UFC fighter, and he had actually competed in competitions, I believe, all around Thailand. One thing that everyone noticed about this particular individual was the fact that he smoked a ton of marijuana. He could smoke anything up to like 4, 5, 6 joints a day. He was always out on the balcony of his dorm smoking a lot of weed. And despite all of this, what you might think, he was actually well liked in the agricultural community around Homehill because he was a very good worker and he worked extremely hard. So at this stage, I think people had noticed around the hostel that Ayliffe was really starting to display some really troubling behaviour, kind of borderline schizophrenic behaviour, if you will. Quoted that he said to just another French backpacker staying at the hostel, he was quoted by saying, "She is in my room, she is my wife, I want to sleep with her." And this brings us to the 23rd of August 2016. So at this point, Mia and her friend had only been staying at the hostel for roughly around a week now, and it was during this time that Mia had asked to actually move rooms because she was starting to just really feel uncomfortable with Ayliffe. And that night on the 23rd is unfortunately where this story takes a very horrifying turn for the worst. It was approximately at, I believe, 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night when Mia was in bed asleep that she was very abruptly woken up by Ayliffe, who just about near on dragged her out of bed. There was a CCTV camera that was actually on just outside their balcony facing into the room. It was seen on the CCTV camera that Ayliffe dragged Mia onto the balcony screaming and making a lot of noise and holding a knife up to her throat. And unfortunately, that is where I'm going to end the video at the moment, because before I can kind of get on to what happens next, I need to tell part 2 of this story. And part 2 of this story is going to be about the man that I mentioned earlier, Thomas Jackson. So please stay tuned for part 2. It's going to be up tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. It is very much appreciated that you're watching this first half of the story. Please stay tuned for the second part. Thank you very much. Stay safe and take care out there.